Well, I was at that time the Director General of the British Advertising Association, and it was my early time in Brussels, and I could see that there were all sorts of unnecessary threats towards the freedom to advertise coming out of the European Commission about pharmaceuticals, about children, about food, various things that were coming out of the Commission without any real basis in fact or threat. And it was just after the Treaty of Maastricht that I was wandering along one of the streets in Brussels with the then managing director of Mars in Austria, a splendid man called Hermann Flotzinger. And having been in wartime sweet rationing, to be with the managing director of Mars was sheer delight as far as I was concerned. And we had another friend who was in Nestle, and the three of us sat down and had a meal in the middle of Brussels and wondered what on earth to do about what was coming out of the European Parliament and out of the Commission. And I knew very well what the Advertising Standards Authority in London was like, and that it was a genuine attempt to make advertising legal, decent, honest and truthful. And the three of us thought about that and wondered whether it was possible to use that kind of vehicle in Brussels as a European means of making advertising legal, decent, honest and truthful. And if we were able to do that, then, you know, what would the Commission have to do? They could leave us and see whether we could self-regulate by ourselves. And that's how we started, though it did take a little time to set it up. I think sitting at Korsendonk, the monastery where we held that first conference, and realizing there were enough senior people sitting there who were actually anxious to make a European Advertising Standards Alliance work. I just think it's wonderful that it's now spreading across the world, because as we go international, allegedly global, advertising is going to have to be seen to be honest. And I think that's terribly important. And if you're getting principles like honesty out through advertisements in countries where politics or business in general is not quite so honest, I think that's fantastic, because it's like putting fresh water across a desert. I think it's important that the EASA should educate each generation of clever young men and women who come to the Commission what advertising is about, because they may come from a country where advertising is relatively primitive or not terribly legal, decent, honest and truthful. And they need to know what it is that self-regulation means, and why saying X on an advertisement may be unjust, but saying Y is right. So I think both the parliamentarians and the Commission need very gentle, teaching is probably the wrong word, but persuasion that here are some decent things that do actually work and benefit consumers. Principles of legal, decent, honest and truthful have to be spread worldwide all the time and with great clarity, because I don't think where you are having to obey the regulations if they exist in a given country and try and persuade people that it is a truthful advertisement, but a persuasive one. I think you've got to go on educating people right around the world that advertising is A, necessary, and B, is essential for any product that is legally for sale. A worldwide organization that adapts closely to what is needed on the web, and in markets in Damascus, if they survive the war, to do both things and to become a major international organization that will help marketers everywhere.